Alright, welcome back, guys. So what you're seeing on your screen is video from the 1893 World's Fair, where they did an exhibition of light, where hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of incandescent bulbs were lit up all across the World's Fair. And on top of that, I have the 1893 World's Fair book. Now, this would have been given out to prominent people who attended or those who could afford it. So this source is as primary sources get. We're going to read what they have to say about this exhibition, and I think you'll find that we're not being told the truth about the past. And the whole idea here is that, just like the reset we're living through today, there had to have been resets in the past, because it's just, there's no way this millions of light bulbs could be wired together like this for a fair. You know what I mean? And these buildings. History tells us that they built buildings like this just for the fair. I know the quality is pretty low, but you can see that these are like old European style, amazing architecture. So we're definitely not being told the truth. So I'm starting to think that the World's Fair was an exhibition of the technology they were about to hide, right? It was like the last hurrah before they introduced electricity as we know it today with the globe model and yeah, all that stuff. So let me start by showing you the title page real quick. Let's see. History of the World's Fair. This was published 1893, same year as the fair. So, like I said, very good primary source. Let's read. Oh, okay. Chapter 14 is about the electrical building. And the video you just saw, here's one of the buildings that was in it. And look at the bottom right here. First of all, you can see that we have a dragon with what looks like a boy and a girl on a baby on each wing. And then there's a woman bearing a torch on top of the dragon. And this is just a super obvious representation of Lucifer and Satan, the dragon, the devil. And think about like the tarot card, where the devil is flanked by the two children, one on each side, right? You add that to the serpent tongue and the dragon and the light bearer. This is clearly an ode to Lucifer. That's what this exhibition probably was, right? So let me pull up what we're going to read. Give me one sec. Okay, here we go. Here's the first page of Chapter 14, Department of Electricity and its Building. So this is talking about the video you just saw. No single science challenges such general attention and admiration as the mysteries and wonders and the benefits and capabilities of electricity. And there is no place where the crowds go so early and so often and linger so long as at the palace devoted to the dissemination of knowledge upon this subject. Upon approaching the electricity building from the south, the visitor beholds on a pedestal in a hemicycle the towering statue of Benjamin Franklin. So this first paragraph, they're going to give us some programming, right? Let's read it. Benjamin Franklin, the first one to attempt to harness lightning to thought. That is most definitely a lie. There he stands, and there is no mistaking him, in his long-tailed coat and old knickerbocker. Okay, this is clearly, we're going to skip the Benjamin Franklin thing. All you got to know is Benjamin Franklin was a Rosicrucian, a Freemason, a member of the Hellfire Club, a sexual deviant, and not the person he is listed as in our history books today. So clearly they're laying the framework of the deception that we would learn in our time. Let's go down here. Next paragraph. The first structure put up in the electricity building was for the display of the Western Electric Company. It is a rectangular Egyptian temple with sloping sides and scalloped cornice. Without losing its thoroughly Egyptian character, the temple is sufficiently conventionalized to meet the requirements of an exhibit room. The four sides bear friezes and panels filled with the peculiar flat and angular figures of the fellaheen at work. The figures are exactly similar to those on obelisks and temples and walls in the country of the Nile. Their occupation, however, are not plowing with a bent stick or making mud houses. They are manufacturing electrical. Let me get to the next. Here's a picture of it before I continue reading. So this was the powerhouse where they powered, I'm going to say millions because it looks like millions, but maybe hundreds of thousands of light bulbs that were all over this light exhibition. And you can even see, look at, this is what we just read about. It's a little bad quality, but we have Egyptian figures, hieroglyphs, and they are creating electricity. Now, if you know anything about the importance of Egyptian mystery when it comes to Freemasons and those who control our world, it begs a question that were these really just modern hieroglyphs made to look like Egyptian ones, or did they perhaps discover some of this technology in Egypt during the 19th century, right? Interesting question. Okay, let's keep reading. Yes, it says it shows the Egyptians with machines and appliances. The conception of the designer is a bold one and serves to contrast most strongly 19th century results of discovery with ancient crudity of scientific investigation. The latter, however, more by implication than portrayal, the whole is done in staff. No pen can adequately describe the grandeur and brilliancy of this temple when flooded with light from 2,000 concealed incandescents. So they're saying this little temple, this exhibit, itself had 2,000 incandescent bulbs. Just this temple, right? Yeah. Sounds like a real tough time wiring that. The main display room is ornamented with 6 massive columns composed of prismatic glass. In the center of each column is placed a revolving chandelier of electric lights. The general effect is to cause a rare vibration and mingling of rainbow tones throughout the room, which thrills the novice with a sort of indescribable awe. It is as though the surrounding air quivered with a surcharge of electrical fluid, which seems to communicate its mystic motion to the spectator. Wow. That's a crazy paragraph. We're going to be talking about the reality of Earth, magnetism, electricity, and we're going to be looking in the 1852 dictionary to get the actual definitions of these things. And what I think you're going to agree with me on is that electricity as we know it today is but a limited and deceptive practice that relies on wires and it's not true electricity as it was known in the 1800s. And notice they call it electrical fluid. We're going to see that in the dictionary as well. But let's keep reading. From the main room to the passage connecting with the 2 lesser rooms, the transition is a soothing, soft glow which drops from the ceiling. The space is roofed with ground glass, and the light originates from several hundred lights between the ceiling and the floor above. In the smaller display rooms, the prismatic columns are repeated. The exhibits consist of annunciators, telephone and telegraph apparatus, multiple drill presses, wire insulating machines, cable-laying devices, and every other article of electrical manufacture. Over the cases containing displays, the walls are in purple and red stones, relieved by gold. A short distance from the temple, the same company have built and daily operate a theater. Not a grand, stupendous assembly room like that of the auditorium, just a sweet little place modeled after the most pretentious, though, and seated and upholstered in the most approved way. Upon the stage of this theater, a skillful manager presents a series of set scenes and a few puppets. It is no child's show or Punch and Judy again, though the children are greatly delighted with it. The practical purpose of this theater is to illustrate some of the things that may be done by an ingenious electrician when he is given an unlimited treasury and full control of the stage. The lighting of the theater by tiny incandescent drops is arranged so as to give the best decorative effect, but it is on the stage that the ingenuity of the electrician displays itself. There, more tints and shades than the serpentine dancer has yet dreamed of, moonlight effects to please the most romantic stage lovers, lightning to which the darkest deeds and direst disasters that the melodramatist has yet conceived may fitly be played in cascades of light for the most fantastic ballets. Okay, so today in 2021, we have light bulbs, right? We have bright ones and we have soft ones, but that's about it. The way they're describing this is out of this world. Prismatic glass and all sorts of incandescent drops. We're going to look at the definition of incandescent, right? A conspicuous attraction to Alicia Gray's telautograph, or long-distance writing telegraph machine. This is one of the latest and most wonderful pieces of mechanism connected with electricity. Simply, a San Francisco man may write to his friend in New York by telegraph, and the communication is whirled over the wires instead of by the fast mail. Up in the gallery and upon the main floor may be seen thousands of new devices of electrical use. There are lighthouses, ship and house lights, and more styles of buttons than a man could touch in a week. Let's stop there for a second. Remember, this was the official text that was entered into the Library of Congress, so it's still there today. I don't think it's being completely truthful. I think it's just omitting a lot of the technology they're actually talking about, and then they're, placing the word wired in there and stuff to make it, for us in the modern day, seem like, maybe it was possible. Anyway, down here at the bottom they talk about lighthouses. Keep that in mind. Let's continue though. There are revolving, running, jumping, shooting, and ricocheting lights in cascades of fantastic incandescence. There are Corinthian columns ablaze with imitation sunbeams, obelisks of light and color, spirals of radiance, fountains of brilliant shades, and thousands of witching lamps that glitter in pillars of crystals. There are also hundreds of phonographs that re-sing the music of the world. The formal opening of the electricity building did not take place until the completion and unveiling of Edison's Tower of Light. Let's pause there. So they want us to believe that they did all of this in the time before power tools were even widely available, right? Think about the work of wiring each incandescent drop to the next one. This little room, this little Egyptian temple display room had 2,000 lights, right? So across the entire show, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of lights. Let's continue. This tower, now they're talking about Edison's Tower of Light. This tower is located in the center of the building and represents the achievements of the electricians who have made the incandescent lamp a life study. Wait, how can you have a life study about a circuit with a light bulb? Aha! From the center of the building, this graceful luminous shaft extends into the groined arch formed by the intersection of the nave and the transept, displaying over 80 feet of solid brilliancy. We're talking about an 80-foot light. The methods of construction have resulted in showing a perfect whole, as if from the base to the top of the entire shaft was hewn from one solid mass of light. The colors are arranged by mechanical methods capable of being flashed in harmony with the strains of music. Guys, they're talking about 80 feet, it said? Yeah, we're talking about over an 80-foot, and it's not a light bulb. They're just saying it's solid and it's brilliant. It's releasing light and it's incandescent. And you'll see when we look in the old dictionary, incandescent actually means glowing, right? And it's interacting with the music. So the light by itself is interacting to the frequency and vibration of the music. There's not a guy in a control room on a computer doing anything. This is occurring through the air. This is occurring through magnetism and electricity. Wow, basically free energy, right? The column is crowned with a well-proportioned replica of an Edison incandescent lamp formed from a multitude of pieces of prismatic crystals. Upward of 30,000 of these beautiful jewels are strung on a frame and are all lighted from the interior by a large number of incandescent lamps. The effect produced is marvelous and can be appreciated only when seen. The colonnade around the base is the exhibit of the Phoenix Glassworks of Pittsburgh, and the distribution of the electric conductors to attain the various effects and changes necessitates careful study, and the combination of kaleidoscopic beauties are almost infinite. Upon the opening night, alluded to, the chief of the electrical department walked to the railing and gazed down the long vista of the building. On all sides, above and below, electric lamps were burning, some with a soft glow of opals, some with the fierceness of welding heat. Whirling wheels of rainbow hues spun with ever-changing colors, and mysterious pens wrote inscriptions on the wall in letters of fire. What? Okay. So even for a book that's in the Library of Congress, where clearly they're not telling us all the truth, they are still admitting things that do not line up with modern history at all. Let's read that last part again. Mysterious pens wrote inscriptions on the wall in letters of fire. In the center of all this brilliant scene rose a gigantic shrouded figure, lifting its impressive height almost to the beams above. Around it was massed a throng of expectant people. Suddenly the shroud fell, and a beautiful Corinthian pillar Starting from a graceful colonnaded pavilion, stood revealed. For a second it stood in all its cold beauty, and then came a burst of electric light from the searchlights in the gallery. The radiating shafts focused on the tower, making it shimmer and sparkle with their radiance. Above the Capitol was poised a huge lamp, built up of 30,000 pieces of crystal. When the white rays glanced on its thousands of facets, myriad lances of sparkle glinted all around. Nothing like this could be done today. This would be such a spectacle to see. Then the soft, sweet melody of Strauss's familiar Blue Danube. So just to picture it in your head, the video we watched in the beginning, now picture an orchestra starting to play. Blue Danube came from Susov's orchestra, and Electra sought music for a partner in the dance. Electra sought music for a partner in the dance. They're talking about electricity already being in the air, and they're using the goddess's name, Electra. And they're talking about using music to activate the electricity that already exists in the air. Wow. The crystal bulb suddenly burst into 1,000,000 diamonds. So we're talking about a giant crystal ball lighting up as the orchestra plays. This is not wired electricity like we know it today. This is magnetoelectricism. I can't even say it. Magnetoelectricism. Okay, this is Tesla stuff, right? High in the air, the jewels flashed as if imbued with life. In the open-eyed thousands below sought relief in long-drawn sigh of wonder, which achieved the volume of a strong wind's voice. The waltz grew merrier, and to the dancing measures lines of purple light shot the length of the pillar. As daintily as a maiden, the incandescent fire tripped up and down, flashing first on one side, then another. When the purple dancers had made the circuit, golden-hued lights took their place. And then suddenly, as if the figure of the dance were finished, all the purple lights shot out, and the column was fluted with lustrous bulbs. The wizard wand moved, and the gold appeared another wave, and every one of the 5,000 purple, white, and gold lamps sprung into being, and the Tower of Light became an indescribably beautiful specimen of pyrotechnical still life. It was a glorification of Edison. Some man called the name aloud, another took it up, and 1,000 voices shouted in honor of the man whose brain wrought... Okay, we all know that Edison is just a Masonic deceiver they would use to cover up their tracks. Whatever technology they are displaying here is from the past, is from an old world, is from before a Great Reset. So there certainly must have been a Great Reset between the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s. And like I said earlier, they are displaying this technology before they take it and hide it and force the people to live the way we live today. Unbelievable. In the pavilion, beautiful electroliers were suspended, transforming the classic dome into a crystal cave with stalactites of pearl, amber, rubies, and sapphire. All this was in the center of the building, up in the north end, revolving lighthouses this is important. Up in the north end, revolving lighthouse lenses sent their strong rays into the eyes of the people, while above them the twinkling notes of electric pianos fought against the united blares of Sousa's horns. So if you don't know, lighthouses have a revolving lens, right? And some of them were built like just big clocks. So you'd crank it and then it would go for a couple of hours. But let me show you. Let's take a little pause real quick. I want to show you, and this is historical fact. This is how lighthouses were powered in the past. And, the 1800s, the time we're talking about now. So at the World's Fair, 1893, they would have been using the very technology you're about to watch. What we have here is a bowl. Under the bowl is a magnet, and there is liquid mercury over there. So what he's going to do is pour the mercury into the bowl and then introduce an electrical current, and what you're going to see is going to shock you. There are still lighthouses today from the 19th century that function like this. Okay, here it goes. This is going to be shocking. I'm going to give you guys some good source documentaries to watch if you haven't watched them yet at the end of this. So he's pouring it in. He's being very dramatic about it. Here comes the electricity, right? Liquid mercury, magnet, electricity. Boom. That's called a vortex, right? And a vortex is formed in a toroidal field. And we'll look at some pictures so we can have a visual understanding. See, he flips it over, and it goes the other way. So this is how those lighthouses were turning, right? Mercury, magnet, electricity. Incredible. Anyway, let me just see if there's any more to read out of that. I think we're good. Oh no, we got one more. The electricity building carries out the Spanish Renaissance idea, modified by a Corinthian treatment. It is a 345-foot wide and 700-foot long. The general scheme of the plan is based upon a longitudinal nave 115 feet wide and 114 feet high, crossed in the middle by a transept of the same width and height. The exterior walls are composed of a continuous Corinthian order of pilasters, 3 feet 6 inches wide and 42 feet high. Remember, they're saying that they did all this just for the World's Fair without power tools. Remember that, right? It seems far more likely that all of this was in place and they destroyed it intentionally, right? The total height of the walls from the grade outside is 68 feet 6 inches. At each of the 4 corners of the building is a pavilion above, which rises an open tower 150 feet high. The building has an open portico along the whole of the south facade, the lower or Ionic order forming an open screen in front of it. The various subordinate pavilions are treated with windows and balconies. The details of the exterior orders are richly decorated, and the pediments, friezes, panels, and spandrels have received a decoration of figures in relief with architectural motifs. Okay, we get it. Pretty incredible stuff. I just want to see if there's anything else important to read here. Let's read this little section. The appearance of the exterior is that of marble, but the walls of the hemicycle and of the various porticos and loggias are highly enriched with color, the pilasters in these places being decorated with scagliola and the capitals with metallic effects in bronze. The building, with its large window spaces and high central and corner towers, is especially designed for electrical illumination by night, and considered as part of this display are the beautiful electric fountains, which show their magic splendors at the head of the basin to the south of the building. Wow. So I know this is probably a lot, so let's take a quick second and just look up, let's see. Let's just look up the 1893 World's Fair so you guys can get an idea of what it looked like. Remember, no power tools. We're talking about, according to history, we're talking about the origins of electricity, right? So the most basic, fundamental, hand-spun wiring. This is what they tell us this was all done with. Unbelievable. Hold on. Look at this. They want us to believe that this was built just for this. Just for the World's Fair. Look at this building. Have you ever seen anything like this built today? I mean, it is so obvious we are being lied to. How crazy is that? The architecture is just unbelievable. And they also want you to believe that all of these lights and all this crazy illumination that reacted to the music of the orchestra, etc., all of this was done with just your basic, hand-spun wire, no power tools, and stringing one light bulb to the next. It's a complete lie. You can actually see the lighthouses, I think, in one of these pictures. Okay, so to make a little sense out of this, we have to understand that Earth is not a ball. Earth is flat, circular, and it has a toroidal field. Toroidal fields form vortexes, right? So here's a good picture. Here's a top-down view of a toroidal field, where all of it, vortices into the center. And here's a good picture of just what a toroidal field is. This is all for a different episode, but I just want you guys to know where I'm coming from, right? There's a torus. So Earth is a disk in the center of this. And if that sounds far-fetched, understand they already tell us this. They just make Earth a ball in space, which is not true. See? Earth's magnetic field, right? So they've reverse engineered the actual Earth, and they've got an answer for everything. Anyway, let's take a look at dictionary definitions. Let's see here, because there's a lot of important stuff. So here we have conductor. This is from that 1852 dictionary. In physics, a substance which forms a medium for the transmission of some other substance or fluid, particularly of heat or electricity. Okay, so it's important to understand that back in the day, electricity was known as a fluid, an aeriform fluid, because that's what it actually is. And the conductor would be the substance that could, have this electricity move through it, right? We're not talking about wires here. Nope, not at all. We're talking about harnessing ether, right? Because ether is real. All right, electricity. Let's read the definition. The subtle agent called the electric fluid, usually excited by the friction of glass. It was called electricity from the Greek word for amber, because it was in the friction of this substance that it was first observed. It is convenient to denominate it the electric fluid, although we know very little of its nature, because it has a greater resemblance to an elastic fluid of extreme rarity than to anything else with which we are acquainted. So it's saying right here that electricity resembles closest an elastic fluid. Right, the elastic toroidal field, right? Extreme rarity, blah, blah, blah. Some bodies permit the electric fluid to pass freely through them, and are hence called conductors. Others hardly permit it to pass through them at all, and are therefore called non-conductors. Metals are the best conductors, next to water and all moist substances, and next the bodies of animals, glass, resinous substances, air, silk, wool, cotton. The phenomenon of electricity are such as attraction and repulsion, heat and light, shocks of the animal system, and mechanical violence. So there's a lot of important things to get our heads around. The phenomena of electricity are such as attraction and repulsion. Well, what do we know attraction and repulsion to be a result of? Magnetism, right? And we're going to get to the definition of that as well. But remember, electricity is an elastic fluid, right? An elastic fluid. Kind of looks like it could take that shape. Okay. All right, hang in. Get this up again. And there are tons of different definitions here. Everything on your screen is about electricity. Electrify, to communicate electricity or to charge with electricity. 2, to cause electricity to pass through, to affect by electricity, to give an electric shock. 3, to excite suddenly, to give a sudden shock as the whole assembly was electrified. Let's see. So this is the definition for electromagnetic, designating what pertains to magnetism as connected with electricity or affected by it. Electromagnetic phenomenon. And we're going to look into that a little bit more. Electromagnetism, the science which treats of the agency of electricity and galvanism in communicating magnetic properties. We're going to cover a couple of those definitions, so hold on. Let's look at electromotor, a mover of the electric fluid, a piece of apparatus for generating a current of electricity. Interesting. Okay, let's go to the next definition. So in that last one we heard about galvanism, right? I want to show you guys a definition of galvanism from this dictionary. Listen very closely. Galvanism is heat, light, electricity, and magnetism, united in combination or in simultaneous action, sometimes one and sometimes another of them predominating, and thus producing, more or less, all the effects of each. Usual means of excitement, contact of dissimilar bodies, especially of metals and fluids. Galvanized, affected with galvanism. Galvanized iron, a name given to sheets of iron which are first dipped in melted zinc and then into melted tin, and are thus prepared by the supposed galvanic action of these metals to resist oxidation. Okay, that's like a galvanized nail. But what's important here is this Galvanism is heat, light, electricity, and magnetism united in combination. Let's keep going. And we heard the word incandescent a lot in that reading. And just so you know, incandescent only means white or glowing with heat, right? And incandescence means a white heat or the glowing whiteness of a body caused by intense heat. So these light bulbs at the 1893 World's Fair, they weren't flipping switches where wires would bring the electricity to the bulb, right? No, they were using, apparently, sound and magnetism to cause these prismatic pieces of glass to incandescence, right? To start glowing, to become brilliant, to light up with heat wirelessly. You might not believe that, but that is definitely the truth. Okay, let's get to magnetism definitions. So we are taught that we live in an electromagnetic universe, but it's really a magneto-electric universe that we live in. And this is kind of new stuff to me, so we're going to be talking about it a lot. I apologize for not having great definitions or getting this across the right way. But like I said, I'm going to leave you with good sources at the end. Okay, magneto-electricity. Electricity evolved by magnets. Magnets, right. 2. The science which treats of electricity, thus evolved. So, electricity evolved by magnets, creating electricity out of magnetism. Incredible. That's what was going on. Just like we watched in that video of the mercury, right? The magnet. The magnet is what allows this to take place when it begins to spin right now. It's evolving the electric current, right? So the magnet is evolving this electricity to create this vortex. Basically, energy, right? And remember, a toroidal field, when you look down on it, has a vortex. We're about to get to the definition of vortex from 1852. That's going to be the icing on the cake. Here we go. Vortex, vortices or vortexes. 1. A whirlpool, a whirling or circular motion of water, forming a kind of cavity in the center of the circle, and in some instances, drawing in water or absorbing other things. So yeah, a whirlpool. That's exactly what you're looking at right here. A whirlpool. Incredible. Let's keep reading. 2. A whirling of the air. 3. In the Cartesian system, a collection of particles of matter forming an ether or fluid endowed with a rapid rotary motion around an axis. By means of these vortices, Descartes attempted to account for the formation of the universe. I haven't read a lot of Descartes, but I think he was probably onto something, because that sounds a lot like the true nature of our flat Earth, because we do not live on a ball. Let's read that again. Collection of particles of matter forming an ether or fluid endowed with a rapid rotary motion around an axis. Wow. Wild. Okay, I think that's it for definitions, but I got one more thing to show you guys to tie this all together, and then I'll show you those sources. Let's see. One sec. So I was antiquing the other day, and I came across 2 postcards. So I've mentioned in this little episode the impossibility of a lot of the structures at the World's Fair and from the old world in general. And every city in America has at least one of these structures. It's often the city hall, but they're these beautiful old world style, crazy gorgeous buildings that were built in a time without power tools, right? And everybody just believes it because, I don't know, they don't question it. Here's one of those. It's called the Mohonk House in New York, Mohonk Lake, New York. And we're going to look at real life photos. I'm showing you these because on the back of these, here we go. It's going to blow your mind. Huh. This is pre-World War I. This is 1905 we're talking about. What's that doing there? Huh. There's another one down there. What's up with that? Well, if you know anything about our enemy, you know that they have to demonize all symbols of the past so that people will never come around to the truth. So I know that you guys watching are open-minded, but most people aren't, and you know that. And if you went up to anybody and told them that this thing meant something different than World War II Germany, they would call you crazy, right? Of course. But let's talk about that symbol a little bit. In the past, during the 1800s, it was called the Tetragrammation, and that basically means 4 gammas, tetra, gamma, dion. And what's really fascinating is it's very close to the Hebrew name of Adonai, Yahweh, right? The Tetragrammaton. Keep that in mind. And when we look in the past, we see this shape all over the world. So I got to be careful not to use the S word. We see it in all cultures all over the world. What this symbol actually is a vortex, right? Let's get back to that definition real quick. Vortex, a whirlpool, a whirling or circular motion forming a kind of cavity in the center. So this symbol, the Tetragrammation, is actually the symbol of a vortex, right? Now, if you know anything about our flat Earth, you know that when you look up into the night sky, at least in the northern hemisphere where I live, if you look up on the nights of the equinoxes and the nights of the solstices, the Big Dipper is actually going to form this very symbol right above your head. And that's because the Earth is not moving. It's because the heavens above, the sun and the moon, are all moving. And the Earth is a stationary, static plane. So this symbol, this ancient symbol, this vortex, is an astrological symbol, and it's talking about the moving firmament above, right? Well, if the Earth isn't moving and the entire heavens, firmament, sun, and moon are all moving, something must be powering them, right? Something must be making them move. It's the toroidal field. So what we're living in is a magneto-electric universe. I hope that kind of makes sense. We're going to be talking about this a little bit more in the future, of course. Here's another example of it. So they had to destroy this symbol. They had to make it so that whenever this symbol came up, if anybody had anything to say about it besides the mainstream, they would be ridiculed. And they've done a very good job at that. Here's the postcard again. There are Norwegian and I think Swiss energy companies from the 1800s that use this as well. And basically what they're symbolizing is the ethereal energy that they were tapping into. And you'll have to watch the documentaries I'll link you to, but energy was harvested out of the ionosphere. That is how they lit up all this stuff. That is how they did all these amazing things that we are being lied to about from the past, right? There is constant energy on our world because the heavens above move and the sun and moon are like a positive, negative charge, and they're always moving, right? So in the past, they were tapped into this energy. Absolutely incredible. So the demonization of this symbol, they had to do it. The enemy had to do it. If their great reset from the 1800s was going to work, they absolutely had to demonize this symbol, because this symbol is a symbol of the unlimited ethereal energy all around us. And they cannot let us tap into that anymore like they did at the 1893 World's Fair. So the postcard you saw, look at this place. You want me to believe that some dude just built this in the 1800s? Have you ever seen anything like this built today? Maybe some of you have, but when they build buildings today, are they even close to the quality of this? You know what I mean? This is absolutely incredible. And just so you know, I'm telling the truth. Here's the postcards right here. So what I think's going on, guys, I know it's been a while. My beliefs have changed a little bit. I'm starting to think that these are old world structures, and these structures were built in a manner where they could tap into the ether and they could generate their own electricity and their own power. And there was no need for running wires. There was no need for, heat pipes and HVAC. They could heat up a building just by itself, and they could light up a building just by itself by tapping into this ethereal ionosphere. And they would tap into it with sound, frequency, vibration. Just so Tesla gives you a little bit of the truth, right? He gives you a crumb of the truth, but there's a lot more to it. Now, let me finish by showing you where you can get up on this history. So you can find this documentary all over the place, but if you go to YouTube, type in Sage of Quay, S-A-G-E, of Quay, Quay. You'll get this guy's Radio Hour show, and this has been mirrored and re-uploaded a bunch of times, so you can find it wherever you want. There's 2 documentaries. One is called What on Earth Happened, and then the sequel is called The Lost History of Flat Earth. And I really think you should watch both of those, because once you do, I guarantee you'll be coming back to this video and your mind will be blown. Because we got the physical evidence to back up what he's saying in these documentaries right here. If you have any questions, leave them below, because like I said, I'm learning this as I go. This is pretty new information to me. And yeah, there was definitely a great reset like 200 years ago, and we are definitely slaves. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a good day. Take care.